Every year on March 17th, the world turns green. We get together with friends, wear shamrocks, search for leprechauns, and celebrate Irish culture. But before it was a global party, St. Patrick's Day was a somber, religious holiday honoring a man whose life sounds a little bit more like a crazy adventure novel than a prayer book. We get into all about the history of St. Patrick's Day right now. So let's start off by talking about the man behind the holiday, St. Patrick. Now, despite being the patron saint of Ireland, he wasn't actually Irish. Plot twist! St. Patrick was born in Roman-Briton around 386 AD, but he wasn't actually born with the name Patrick. His original birth name was Meowen Sakat. He only chose the name Patricius after he became a priest. And you could say religion was in his blood. His father was a deacon, and his grandfather was also a priest. However, it really wasn't an easy road to sainthood for St. Patrick. At 16, his life took a very dark turn when he was kidnapped by Irish raiders and sold into slavery. He worked in Ireland for 6 years as a lonely shepherd. But ironically, this is where St. Patrick's journey to sainthood actually begins, because instead of giving up, he found his faith. He was eventually able to escape his captors after a vision told him that there was a boat waiting for him on the coast. St. Patrick walked across Ireland to the coast, found the ship, got aboard, went back home, and reunited with his family. Now here's where things get really interesting. Most people would stay very far away from the place that held them as a slave for 6 years. But not Patrick. He had another vision, which he called the voice of the Irish. This vision was calling him back to Ireland to share his faith. So St. Patrick returned to Ireland as a missionary, determined to share his faith with the Irish people. Legends say that as he traveled around explaining Christianity, he used the three-leaf shamrock to explain the Holy Trinity of the Christian faith. During his years-long quest, he is credited with establishing over 300 churches and baptizing thousands of people, leaving a lasting foundation for Christianity in Ireland. Couple fun facts here. St. Patrick's original color wasn't actually green. It was blue. It was changed to green in the 1790s during the Irish Rebellion, when the shamrock became a symbol of Irish nationalism. There's also another legend that St. Patrick banished the snakes from Ireland. Now this is actually not true because at the time there were no snakes in Ireland, so you can't really banish what isn't there. However, most people think it is a metaphor for converting the pagan religions to Christianity. St. Patrick died on March 17th, and there's actually some debate among historians about the year in which he died. Some believe he died around 460 AD, while others think it was way later in 490. No matter what year you see that he died, all agree that St. Patrick did indeed die on March 17th, which is the day of St. Patrick's Day. Widespread observance of St. Patrick's Day in Ireland started around the 9th or 10th century. However, when it began, it was a quiet religious feast celebration and not the big party that we know it as today. Okay, so that's the man behind the holiday, the patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick. But how did a church-going, quiet, religious feast day become a massive party with parades of thousands of people? Well, to understand that, we have to go across the Atlantic to America. Believe it or not, the first recorded St. Patrick's Day parade didn't happen in Ireland. It happened in what would later become Florida in 1601. Okay, now let's flash forward a little bit to the mid-1700s, when homesick Irish soldiers serving in the British military paraded through New York City. They did this as a way to celebrate their roots. But as millions and millions of Irish people immigrated to the United States in the 19th century, these parades became hugely popular as a way to celebrate not only their culture, but their growing influence in society. Okay, let's take a few seconds here to talk about food, because this is right around when the traditional meal for St. Patrick's Day changed. In Ireland, the traditional meal for St. Patrick's Day used to be Irish bacon and cabbage. However, immigrants living in New York City found this was too expensive. They found that they could get another meat, corned beef, much cheaper from the delis around them. Because of its affordability, corned beef then became the traditional meal for the Irish on St. Patrick's Day. Today, St. Patrick's Day is a global phenomenon, and it's celebrated in a lot of places which have almost no historical connection to Ireland. From Japan to Russia to Singapore, everybody's getting down with the green. The New York City parade is the longest running civilian parade and the largest in the US. It is estimated that 3 million people come out to watch every year. Chicago, meanwhile, has been dyeing its river green since 1962. Around 1995, the Irish government realized that the world was obsessed with St. Patrick's Day, and they needed to capitalize on it. They used it as a way to promote Irish tourism and pride. So around 1995, they created this days-long festival that rivals any party in New York or elsewhere around the world. Okay, we're almost done here, but we can't end without talking about the leprechaun. The name leprechaun in Irish actually means small-bodied fellow. And if you met a folklore-accurate one, you'd probably be a little bit disappointed. They aren't the fun-loving mascots that you see on cereal boxes. In Ireland, leprechauns are actually solitary, kind of cranky fairies. In Irish folklore, leprechauns are the shoemakers for other fairies, and they actually do have pots of gold. But good luck trying to get one, all right? They are said to be extremely deceptive and full of tricks if you go after their pot of gold. If you do manage to catch one, legend says that you get 3 wishes, but be careful because they often try to twist your words with the wishes. So you want to live forever, they'd probably make you like a rock. While they actually have their own holiday in May, leprechauns became the unofficial mascot of St. Patrick's Day, largely due to their huge commercial appeal. Legend says that wearing green on St. Patrick's Day makes you invisible to a leprechaun, who will often try to come up and pinch you. So whether you're celebrating the historical bravery of a 5th century saint, marching in a massive parade, or just plain wearing green, St. Patrick's Day is a day to celebrate Irish culture. It's a day that no matter where you're from or no matter who you are, everyone can be a little bit Irish.